Welcome to Season 2 of Under the Sisterhood. Over the 31 days of March, we are celebrating 31 Women's March of Voices during Women's History Month. We will have intimate conversations that will uncover each woman's superpower and find out how they use these superpowers to help other women. That's 31 days honoring 31 women and their superpowers. This is a podcast to celebrate women and all that they do in our world. I'm Elizabeth Elfenbein. Let's get under the hood. Today we're celebrating Brittany Gooden, a daughter, sister, auntie, friend, and filmmaker with 10 years of working in TV, media, and advertising. For her directorial debut, she is investigating the death of her uncle, Izell Parrott, who was found hanging in a tree in a docu-series and podcast called Strange Bird. As a multidisciplinary producer, her work with premier clients in TV, media, and advertising include Netflix, Discovery, Spike, Bustle, Vox, and Under Armour. Brittany also takes great pleasure in mentorship and cultivating safe spaces for young girls and women in creative fields. I am so thrilled to be celebrating Brittany during Women's History Month. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm like, wow, what an introduction.
Oh, well, it's your introduction. It's your story. And it's pretty amazing. You're doing wonderful things. And I have to say, Brittany, I'm so excited. It's Women's History Month. It is so wonderful to celebrate all of you amazing women. So why don't we get going?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. So the big question, the big overarching question is really, what's your story? Tell the world Brittany's story. And let's talk about it.
Yeah. So I grew up in a small town in upstate New York, like upstate, not Westchester. Like New Yorkers are always like Westchester. No, like up by Vermont, Canada. We were one of the only Black families there. But there was an incredible, when I was younger, there was an incredible Black culture there, like within the church and, like for causes like the NAACP and things. So that shaped a great deal who I was. I always had, my mother was incredible at shaping spaces for me and my cousins, my siblings, and her family. I come from a really big family, where I, was able to practice leadership skills. And if I had an idea, the church was ready to let me write the play, put on the play, direct the play. So it was, I had a tremendous childhood in that way, but it was also really peculiar because it was difficult being one of the only Black families. Like, what, never seeing yourself besides only in your family. And then, obviously extending that into the media. But yeah, so I grew up in upstate New York, and I have lived all over, literally the world. I lived in Philadelphia and Tennessee, and went to a Black college for a year. And then I've lived in Turkey, I've lived in Germany, and now I'm here in New York City. But all those things really have, like, just being around different cultures have shaped my worldview and kind of like this person I'm becoming today. Yeah. So I've had a great and interesting life.
So thank you for sharing that. No, it sounds so let's delve a little deeper into your childhood experience. I mean, you were clearly very loved and surrounded by a wonderful family. But tell your story about you used the word peculiar, living in a community where you were the only family of color. And what was that experience like as a young girl and coming into womanhood?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of confusion. My mom has 8 siblings, right? And a lot of them at the time lived in upstate New York. And so they had children. So those are my cousins, and we are all very tight. But I never felt like I belonged anywhere outside of my own family unit or the church unit, because it's peculiar and amazing in the way that, like, where my mom is originally from down south, and there is a huge southern influence in Glens Falls from the Black families, right? So it's like, my mom still has an accent, my grandmother, the people we went to church with, they all have a little southern accent. Therefore, I'm like first upstate New York descendant of that. So just never really feeling like I belonged anywhere outside of that structure that my family created. I think it causes, like, you're like, am I pretty? Like those simple things that everyone should feel. My nose doesn't look like anyone else. My hair isn't the same as anyone else. And so like all the things that come along with struggling with self-esteem. And
Mm,
then also having some shame around what it means to be Black. Right now, I'm very proud of that. I live in Brooklyn. It's a different environment. It's like those are the stories I champion when I'm telling stories. Like, but like when I was younger, it was something I struggled with. I didn't understand why me, why us, even though I also had this incredible experience of like self-expression. Because that's like the Black church when I was growing up there, it wasn't just about religion. It was about like Black self-expression. It was about the appreciation for the foods, the music, like the plays. Like I feel like my family did an incredible job of making sure I was not only like current and understanding the impact of how history over time has impacted things for us, but also like my mother took me to see all the plays, and we traveled. And if I couldn't travel with my own family, because my we had I have five, there's five of us, and so I had younger siblings, she would send me with my uncles and my aunties, and I would go and go to like all the different cultural events. But so they were very invested in me at a young age. But the peculiar thing is still like just never feeling like I belonged outside of that unit.
yeah, I can't even begin to imagine that. But what I would say, what I find interesting in terms of communicating your story to women around the world is that sense of belonging, the need for us to belong. And it's a horrible thing because at young ages, girls aren't, you're lucky if you get in with a certain clique, you don't get in. And I don't want to make it small,
Yeah.
but it starts in small, insidious ways that
Mhm.
that sort of infiltrate us as young women. And then we grow up and there's these cliques and you don't fit in, you're an outsider. I can tell you that I never felt like I belonged, but not for the same reasons. And what I would say is what's interesting in your story as well is you had an amazing family and an amazing community, but it's
Yeah.
still with all that support and ability of self-expression, it didn't take away that not belonging in the greater community, that external world.
Yeah.
Like and
Yeah.
so that's an interesting story. I'd love to hear Brittany, about at what point, so your mother really supported and your church supported your creative expression. Like what got you into directing and filmmaking and into that sort of media? Like what was it that, snap, this was an inflection point, I was always creative, or, what was it?
First of all, I'm laughing because so we had a little small choir when I was younger, and I probably appointed myself the child director of that. So I was able to tell everyone like, to swing back and forth and to sing louder, and I always appointed myself the soloist. Like my mom was actually the actual choir director, and I would pray she wasn't going to go to church that day so I could direct the choir. So I always say that was where I first started directing. But it was a family member who brought me into the fold. It was out of dire need for a paycheck. It was like, I came in as a PA. I was a little bit older. I was in I want to say my like my late 20s. And I immediately saw like, this is my community. This is where I belong. This is like, these are the
Mm,
stories I've been writing for myself. These are the things where, like, because I had been writing shows and did that just for myself, or coming up with ideas and brainstorming with my friends abstractly, always. I've always written poetry. I've always done all those things. And so my cousin brought me and he's like, hey, listen, you can PA on the show. We'll see how it goes. And he was my hardest boss. So he was like, no handouts. I need a PA, a production assistant. Let's come see like for the weekend. And then he's like, whoa, you're actually pretty good. Like you're able to anticipate. So I was able to really like, what ended up happening was I feel like my career went really quickly and it changed my life. And immediately, like, I rarely ever just think about like, how does this impact me? Like, I'm always grateful for that. But when I see something like when I went into TV and media, I was able to immediately see how this could impact my community, the Black community, beyond just self-expression, like being able to make $1, like learning one more thing every week or every month you can make more money. What? You know, I was so excited about that. Um, so I became a manager very quickly, and I'm still doing a lot of like the logistic side of things, but luckily I was able to cross over and do more of the creative. Um, and people were just willing to like mentor me because I was so hungry. And like I was just excited. Like I wanted people to teach me things. So I wanted to be, if I was always anticipating. I used to be like have my little backpack on and, just even like anticipating like someone looks like they're thirsty, passing them water just so I could stand next to them and hear what was happening and learn more about story. And so just like those small little things really propelled my career. And ever since then, it's just like I I love the business aspect of it, and I love the storytelling aspect of it. The business aspect, because again, it's just like being able to give people an opportunity, that brown people, black people that look like me, the opportunity to make a lot of money, to make, or to just to like to when you do a TV show, it's almost like setting up a business. And I always think that's so cool because it's like you learn so much in those environments, and then being able to translate that into something that maybe means something to you. I just think it's a really cool opportunity.
Well, thank you for sharing that. One of the things that stands out very early on was you going and directing your choir at a young age.
Mhm.
I don't recall the age, but I think what I want to point out,
Six.
Brittany, 6 years old. So you know what that says? You can laugh all you want. It says she's a leader. You were a leader at age
Yeah.
6. And then in
Thank you.
order to lead, you have to get people to follow you. So that's all about your personality. Is it contagious? Do people see you? Like literally see you and see the potential in you. And that's how you show up every day. So it sounds like, I mean, you were hungry, you were excited, you were there. And the fact that you anticipated these small little things so you could be part of the conversation and hear things is just fantastic. I think the one thing I want to point out to you is yes, you will get the opportunity to make money. And I understand the obstacles and the importance of that. Just being a woman and not feeling like there's the equity and pay and stuff. But I think there's the other side of it, which I think you really might want to talk a little bit about because of all the work you're doing creatively is really the passion for it, for storytelling. And I want to make one other point because one of the things that you've come at it from a very executional side, coming in
Mhm.
that way, and now you're putting the creative side together. I'm in my late 50s, and I would say my experience of you getting all of those experiences together gives you the ability to do things you would never have imagined. Because if you were just a storyteller, might not be able to execute it without the help of other people. Not that you don't need help, but what it does
Right.
is it gives you the confidence to see the bigger picture and to do more. And when you're starting up, if you're doing a film, if you're doing your docu-series and you're funding it, you need to be in a position where you have greater capacity to wear many hats. So I think of that as a great, 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 great strength for now and as your future goes on in whatever capacity. But getting back to the creative side and your passion for storytelling, I
Mm.
think it's really important to talk a little bit about that. And it's interesting because you talk about your uncle, Izell. I mean, talk about like what, because it seems to be your passion is telling stories about your family. What is it you'd say?
I mean, I'm proud of my family, like all the different layers of it. And I'm like, one of the things I'm working on just like on a personal level is just allowing people to show up as who they are without putting my what I believe is best for them, like just understanding. And I feel like the more that I begin to do that, the better of a storyteller I am. And I feel like it's a gift to be able to use 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 what I do every single day to preserve my family's story. And so I've taken this as like a way to be a historian of my family story. I'm very proud of how my grandmother got to from Alabama to New York. She literally had 8 kids, $50, one suitcase, and left her husband, who was doing very well at the time. But it just wasn't the right situation. He was abusive, and it was like she had to get her kids out of there. So she left from Alabama to New York. So that's what I come from. Is I come from a line of visionaries, and risk takers. And so when I think about translating that into my passion, I'm so grateful that like storytelling chose me. Like I feel I've always had a deep connection with a lot of people in my family because I'm naturally just curious, which now I understand that this is the shaping of me getting into story, right? I'm curious about my grandmother's story. She and I have a very close relationship. My mom, like my and all the different pockets, even my cousins, just understanding like how their family dynamics and we're in the same family are very different. And there's just not enough of it. And I get very like I can't relate to a lot of what I've seen on TV still. And so I'm just like, well, I'll do it because I love telling these stories. I think they're interesting, and I think it's a great, I have a lot of pride around it. So
That's wonderful. Thank you for that. That's really wonderful and really special. And what I'm hearing, uh, the potential for that is it's really about this great, authentic story about family, and and your family specifically, but the way you're telling it, and so that's really beautiful. So how do you feel like here you are at this juncture of your life? It's your story. It's not that we have to have our story spelled out. Some people have a great plan, and and even a lot of creatives do. Like, I want to be here by X date. Like, what are you thinking? Like, you're here today, you're Brittany Gooden today, you're doing all these wonderful things. How are you imagining your future creative self?
well, I feel like how I think about my career is constantly evolving. How I feel about my life is constantly evolving. And the thing that I'm trying to do is continue to soften around what makes me feel really good. And I just like, I get chills just saying that because it's like the things that make me feel really good um, are sharing information with people, are celebrating people, are inspiring people. And so that's how I see my career expanding. I see myself, directing huge Marvel films. I also like, and then also like within that, I see, like um, an incredible team of people that are also with me creating that mentorship and like what that can mean for our community. Like, what does it mean to have a Black superhero that I helped write the story? That's going to look very different. I have a very different life experience. So I think it's less for me about like the destination at this point. And it's just like I'm sitting in the feeling of knowing that I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do, of knowing that like I have achieved tremendous things and I also should be proud of those things. And the next level for me is sitting in the feeling of all the things that I set up for myself. So, because I'm like, do I say this or not? Do I not say this? Because when my cousin first offered me that job, the reason he offered it to me, and it was just like a freelance gig. I was living in my real estate office and he didn't know, but he and I are close enough for he felt like something was disconnected, right? He was like, I don't know what's going on. You're like waitressing now. Before you were in real estate, you and your ex-boyfriend were living in Turkey. My ex-boyfriend was a professional basketball player. It didn't work out. I came back to New York and I was not going to go to upstate New York because I didn't see how my life I just didn't see my life there. I wasn't supposed to go back there. So I was living in my real estate office. I was working as a hostess at the diner. It's called, to make sure that I had one meal a day. And so it's all just taken off from there. So I'm like, okay, I can empathize with people when they feel like they are at their lowest, and I can like, as long as if you can just hold on to a little bit of hope. That's what my dad always tells me. It just starts with hope, and you can go anywhere from there. And I feel like storytelling allows me to heal, allows me to stay in those spaces. So yeah, it's less about the destination at this point. It's more about just like staying in this feeling of just being so incredibly grateful, that I feel like every single day I'm living out my dream.
I think that is beautiful. And thank you for sharing that, what might be a secret, because this is about sharing. We've all had struggles. I think the thing that I'm hearing, Brittany, though, is what I really love, and I think this is a great message to women, is the fact that it's not about the destination. So it's really about the journey. And I love the fact that you're sitting in the feeling of great about the things you're doing. Um, I will say that my generation, I will speak for myself, but I think I can speak generationally as well. We were so busy doing, we didn't sit in the feeling, we kept doing. And a lot of women still to this day have destinations in mind. I never had the destination in mind. Things happen because I worked hard and I just kept doing and kept, trying to get more and more expert, if you will, better at what I did with the passion of what I was doing. So I was very fortunate because I was in a business I loved being in. But my generation didn't really sit. Like I marvel at your generation that sits and is, it's not about the destination, it's about the process. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. And it's a beautiful thing because I think that your generation, my daughter's, I think, I don't know, 10 years younger, maybe a little less than 10 years younger. And she's sitting in, it's about the process, it's about her journey. It's not about,
Yeah.
and so really savoring the day. And the other thing I love about what you're saying is the empathy, like understanding what it's like to be at different times in life where you're in a struggle, you are in a maybe a survival mode, and you're finding a way and having hope. So I applaud you for both sharing that, for experiencing that. That is kind of all of our experiences in different ways, and we get through it. And I think women, for the most part, do you want to say anything about that? Women seem to
Yeah,
get
well,
through it more than anyone.
I was gonna say, but isn't it because like we stand on the shoulders of giants? Like, you for your daughters, like creating a path, seeing you in certain ways, I'm sure having dialogue, being willing to have those discussions. My grandmother sharing with me what she went through. So that sense of pride that she set me up for this life. My life would have looked very different if my mother and her would have stayed in that environment that they were in. And so it's like, I feel like it's just like, that's why sharing stories are so important. That's why, like, the vulnerability piece around when you do make when you make a mistake and you learn from it. Um, if someone is open to it, sharing, or maybe not even sharing it to teach, just sharing it because you're really proud to get through it, and not holding on to the shame, I think is so incredibly important. And it's been the reason for me that I continue to propel forward. But the honest thing is like, of course I had goals. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very proud of the things that I have accomplished. I think that I have what I've done sets my family, opens my family's trajectory for the places that where we can go. And I should be proud of that. I don't need to have any shame or feel like I need to be humble in these situations. I'm humble every single day, okay? And I worked my tail off to be able to achieve these things. And I had a vision. And even then I didn't, maybe now I'm able to articulate that I'm sitting in that feeling because I was visualizing it. But like, then it was just like I'm learning what I can. YouTube was becoming popular. People were sharing more information and that changed things. So I do think that it's like the luxury that my generation gets are on the shoulders of people that came before us. And we're in survival mode, which is also real. you know you can't, like, there's different levels. It's different levels. And when you work through things, being able to continue to remain empathetic and understand that, like, and not just because you're here doesn't mean everyone else should be here. And just like, you continue to push forward, that's your journey. And also just keeping your arms open for others that are ready to come with you or for you to learn from each other. So
Oh, I love that. I love that, keeping your arms open to embrace others, bring them along for the journey, or, learn from
it's
each other. That's
exciting.
amazing. That's a really great ending to that little piece, that nugget. I think the other thing that I just want to, like, what's hitting me is sitting in it. I love the way you connected with, you had a vision, you're sitting in it now. You're sitting in it, you're
Mm,
experiencing it. You had this vision, you're now living it. So it's not that you don't have a destination, like a vision. You don't have a destination, meaning there is not an exact place you're going to arrive at, but the vision of where you're going, you're sitting in it right now. And as I see it, you're sitting in it with a lot of friggin' grace. So that's
thank
amazing.
you. Thank
It's
you.
amazing. Is there anything else you want to share in your story, Brittany? Because, you're speaking to women literally from around the world. I mean, we so far out of the 31 women we're speaking to from 19 different countries, representing, but of the 71, I think we've spoken with women from about 35 countries. So, like, we are talking to us around the world, women of all ages, 18
Oh,
right now to 85. What else, like, with your story? Because I think as a creative and this ability to express yourself, what else do you think that is worth sharing with women?
well, first, hey girl, hey. But also like I'm just I think that it's like remembering that like our power is often the thing that maybe feels like what people tell us we shouldn't do, right? Like I used to be, and I'm still working on this. I feel like I used to be so like almost like drill sergeant with myself, with like what I was managing. And yeah, I was able to go far quickly. And now I also feel that the more I'm softening around myself and I'm taking time to realize what I want, I'm actually going further in different ways. I'm opening up spaces or I'm leaving spaces that aren't right for me. And it's so freaking cool because what that does is it's kind of like my approach to that, even like with my documentary, it's weird, but it was like, all right, people are telling me the way I want to do this is wrong, but this is my vision. Why would it be wrong? Why all of a sudden would I just in this circumstance not trust myself? I should trust that like I know what's right for me. I should trust that like if I feel like I need to go slower or take longer or think about it more or open up my perspective, that's okay. Like I don't need someone to tell me that just because this is the way something has always been, that this is the way it is. It's like, no, that's not right because I don't see myself in those spaces. So, like, your vision is yours for a reason, and you are literally light in this world. And I truly believe that, like, all of us come with something that's really special. It's like, and it's like that thing, whatever that thing that makes you happy, like that's like, don't be afraid to like sit in that, to capitalize on it. Like I also don't believe like every obviously you don't do everything for money, but I think it's okay to also be excited about creating resources for your families and for us just to continue share information, and I think that of course, like because I'm a storyteller, I think that it's like be excited about telling your own family story, be excited about telling your own story. If it touches one person, that has a dynamic domino effect, and you never know where that could go, and we really do need to preserve those things for ourselves and for the generations to come.
Yeah, thank you for that. Interestingly, it's Women's History Month, and here you're
Yeah.
talking exactly. Here you're talking about preserving your family history, making it history. It is history, your history, and how we show up as history. So I really love that. So as we move on to the next question, and I think that I want you to think of this like in many layers, like you have been sharing with everything else. What would you say your superpowers, plural, are, Brittany?
I'm laughing because I always like I feel like I am in the middle of abstract thinking and very practical thinking. And I think that's my superpower. I think that I am able to see things from multiple perspectives. And I am now, even like as I'm like talking this through with you, I'm like, my superpower is curiosity because I think curiosity keeps us open. And I think it's one of the things that it makes us like stay attached to nothing except that like just in constant search of, I mean, like curiosity for me is a thing that it's like I can listen to you even if I don't fully agree with you, and I can maybe connect to how even just this time, this place, and this conversation, like abstractly, me with a person who I'm not agreeing with, because you're just you and I, we're tight. But I think it's that thing that allows us to move forward, and I'm like proud that that's my superpower. Like I've been thinking of this question, and I was like, I wanted to say I'm a connector. I connect people to stories or to each other, and it's like, yeah, I'm good at that. I am. And but I think the core thing underneath that is because I'm curious about people, and I really I hope that I create space where people can authentically show up as themselves.
I love that. And I love the connection of the abstract to the practical. I know I think you used a different word, but I think that started well, I'm really good at, I think abstractly, but I also connect and I'm very practical and able to tangibilize it too. So when you connect those two things, to your point, and it's the curiosity that's at the center. So if you had, two circles that were overlapping, that little shape in there would be, the in between would be the optimism. Not that the optimism isn't bigger, not
Mm,
optimism, I'm sorry, wrong word. Optimism, yes, but
that's a good word
curiosity is
for
what I
me.
meant. Curiosity is what I meant.
Yeah.
Not that the curiosity isn't bigger, that it overlays both, but I think bringing those together is really, that's a fantastic superpower, by the way, and it will serve you
I was
so
like, is it
well.
a superpower?
What? What? It's
I think I
fantastic.
was like, and there,
Yeah, because
it is,
even
right?
curiosity would be the umbrella to your ability
Mhm.
to connect and do all those things with the storytelling and connect stories, people, humanity, all of that, and even be able to connect because you have empathy. It's the
Mm.
curiosity. If you didn't sit at the top with curiosity, all those other things wouldn't sort of fall into line. So I think you're onto something there with some serious
Thank you.
superpowers.
Thank you.
How, you know, Brittany, how do you use these superpowers to help other women, to be in service of other women?
Um, well, I mean, we're talking at a really interesting time in my life because I'm in a huge transition. I'm in transition of like applying the things that I now believe to be true, right? It's like my job to me for so long is so important, and but I'm pivoting out of what I've built for myself in my career to do more to do more creative things. And but with that what but so and I'm telling my family's stories. So at the center of that, when I take away all those things, I'm thinking about the people that I care about. And so it's like now I'm thinking more, how do I be more present in my niece's life who doesn't live as close to me? How do I, because when I think about it, when if it's today was my last day, I've lived an incredible life. And what is one of the last things I'd want to do? I want her to know that she is so incredibly worthy and that this world is actually set up for her. And it's for her to it's for her to shape it. And so or like, and not just her, like even her friends, like they all call me Aunt Brit. Okay, so it's like um and she's
That's
been
wonderful.
tremendous without even knowing like her impact on me, just like with her caring words. And I see that like in her fearlessness and like trying new things. And she's a leader, and on the she's big, she's in playing sports and things like that now. But and when I cut my hair, she was all a part that, I'm bald. And so yeah, when I think about how I want to show up now for other women, it's usually starts with the people that I can literally reach out and touch every single day, the people that are like the people I talk to most. Because I think that's the actual biggest impact. And that's not to say, like, I'm well aware that I have incredible privilege, that I do work in media, which has massive outreach. But still, I still think that it starts like, for me, it starts with just like the people that I'm surrounded with, and my mom. Even I feel like we're learning from each other so much now. It's less just about her or how I would perceive it, is like me just learning from her. It's like now we're exchanging information and we're understanding where each other come from. And how we kind of like, she's a huge in her community. She's on like all these boards, and she's shaping education upstate. And the police force, she was on the police force, and now she's thinking about police reform and what does that look like. And so it's just like, again, it's just like it's starting exactly where you are in your own communities, for me.
Well, yeah, well, I actually think that that's just wonderful, and I'll tell you why I think it's wonderful. Um, because I do think it starts with one-on-one. It's sort of like me with every woman I'm meeting, I'm changing, hopefully giving you a platform to be seen, heard. And so it's literally one person at a time. What I like about what you're saying, Brittany, is it starts with our family, your niece, your someone in your family where you can impact. And interestingly, the way you said that even her friends look at you because you show up a certain way, you role model certain things. And that's what these young women see as possible for them. When we
Yeah.
show up a certain way, we are showing them that they can do just about anything because they see us behave a certain way. And so I think that's one thing that really strikes me as a wonderful, wonderful way to serve women in your community, in your literal community of family. Start with family, friends, what have you, because I think you're right. And you actually said this. You said that's where we can have the greatest impact, is when it starts close to us. And then you
Hmm.
made the comment about, yeah, I work in media and it has a massive, the parameters, it has a massive audience, if you will, but it's not always an audience that's serving for the good. You know what I mean? And so I think that where we women, and I'm not saying I love media, it's great, what have you, but it also can be, not so great. And I think it's important, what you said is really touching the people in your community. And your community can be where you live, it can be your family, your friends, what have you, your literal neighborhood community, your church community. It's what you build. So that's a really wonderful message, and wonderful way to use your superpowers. And it's also like,
Thank you.
when you're a high vibe energy like yourself, when you're putting out that good
Oh,
energy and that
thank you.
frequency, no, it's all about that. I mean, I don't mean to get all woo on the world, but we show up a certain way, and we can either attract good things or we can attract a
Mm,
lot of negativity. It's up to us as women, as
mm,
humans. How do we show up? And so, like for me, I'm all about that. You are what you attract. You mirror the people you want in your life based on how you behave and stuff. So I think all of the way you're serving your community and women is just beautiful. So we're coming to an end, but I love this
I'm loving this
question,
combo.
which
So fun.
this is, I don't want to hang up, Brittany. I am just so loving it. Because I love, I think being a creative, we are connecting so much on both the integration of and the synergy between the conceptual and the practical. So I
Mhm.
can so relate to right brain, left brain coming together. But this question is, right now you're speaking to women all around the world, all ages. So imagine 18 on up, could be younger than 18, but really 18 up to 100, women of all cultures and of all backgrounds,
Mm.
LGBTQ, any woman who identifies with being a woman. What is the greater message you want to leave coming out of this? It's Women's History Month. Is there anything you want to say to women out there?
Hmm. Oh man, that's a hard one. I think it's just like, I think it's again, it's remembering that, can you sit with yourself and see your own power? And if you can't, then can you find someone that can help you see it in you and help you bring it to light? Because like I think all of us just need to know that like we all are light on this earth, and sometimes things get hard and they get dimmed, but just like if you can just at least hold on to that little bit of hope and begin to get even just curious about yourself, and maybe like the curiosity will help you. For me, I used to deal with a lot of shame around just like what I didn't do that I should have done, and comparison to my cousins who were my age or people like in society, how I thought I should be showing up. I have a very, I did not have a traditional route in any sense of the word for anything. And just remembering that some of those things that you're holding on to that like you may feel shame about, that's how you're perceiving yourself, and so therefore the world is seeing you like that. The moment that you can let go of some of that stuff and allow your light to shine, there's no stopping you. There's absolutely no stopping you. We're all connected, and the right people are going to attract you. The moment that you can become curious and say, can I let this go? I think it changes everything. Can I be open that there's another way for me to think about myself? Can I be open to that there's opportunities I haven't thought of yet? Could I be the first to bring this to my community, to my, to my town, to my village, to my country? Of course I can. And just so yeah, just remembering that literally like you are the light. You're the light that this world needs. Sorry, I'm like getting so excited because I also think one of my superpowers is usually when I sit with people, I can help them be like, "Oh my God, you're so good at this." Like this is your thing, and I'm just like feeling all the energy in the world, and like I just know that like I will always remain hopeful because women are on this planet, and we just make things better. Sorry.
Oh, no apologies. That's amazing. And I couldn't agree more. I don't want to say anything other than I am so honored and grateful to have had this conversation with Brittany Gooden. Guys, check out Strange Birds. We'll have the link in the show notes. It's a trailer to her docu-series on her uncle. And you'll learn more about Brittany in our show notes. But Brittany, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for getting really deep and real and being your authentic self
Thank
for us
you.
today.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm writing a short about when I was a kid, and you just helped me with a lot of ideas. So thank you. Thank you for this combo. And thank you all for sharing this space with me. It's incredible what you're doing. And it's just like, yeah, you're changing the world. It's like I'm so inspired by what you're doing. Thanks for having me.
Oh my goodness, I'm so touched. Goosebumps. My whole body has goosebumps.
Yes.
And by the way, happy Women's History Month to all of you.
Happy Women's History Month. Yes.
Thanks for listening to Under the Sisterhood. If you haven't already, please give us a quick rating and review on Apple or Spotify. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn so you can hear from more amazing women. This podcast is created and hosted by Under the Sisterhood LLC and Elizabeth Elfenbein, produced by Elizabeth Elfenbein and Zach Slaff, and edited by Zach Slaff. The music is by Ayla Schaefer, her song, Rose.